Hello, in this video I'm going to show how I replaced the clutch slave cylinder on my 2003 Land Rover Defender TD5. The reason that I'm replacing the slave cylinder is because it's become a little bit difficult to select some of the gears, particularly reverse. I tried adjusting the travel in the clutch pedal, and this kind of helped for a short while, but it still wasn't a pleasant experience changing gears. So I naturally assumed that as I'd recently replaced the clutch master cylinder, that it was the slave cylinder that was faulty, and the general consensus of opinion seems to be that both should be changed at the same time. So the first thing I do is cover the drive up, put a bucket underneath the position where the slave cylinder is, and open the bleed nipple on the slave cylinder. The slave cylinder is connected to the rigid pipework via a flexible pipe, as you can see here. Here you can see I'm disconnecting the rigid pipework so that I can remove the flexible pipe from the bracket that secures it to the bulkhead. When dismantling things like this, I'm always careful. I'm trying to do as little damage as possible, just in case the new part that I've got isn't suitable or it won't fit. I just like to keep the old stuff, if I can, just as a backup. Believe me, there's been plenty of times when I've been searching through the rubbish for a part that I've thrown away that for some reason or another I've got to try and reuse. When I finally remove the lock nut, I then try it on the new hose just to make sure that it's the same size and the threads fit and everything. What I'm attempting to do here is disconnect the little bit of rigid pipework that goes to the slave cylinder. I didn't realise there is no real need to undo this at this point, because ultimately it's connected to the flexible pipe, which is connected to a bracket which is held in place with one of the bolts that holds the slave cylinder in place. So when I've undone the two bolts that hold the slave cylinder in place, the whole lot comes out together, which does really make the removal and replacement of the slave cylinder quite a simple job. Here's the bracket that I referred to earlier that comes out with the slave cylinder. If I didn't have plans to replace this flexible pipe, there would be no need to disassemble this union from the bracket. So here's where I notice there's a problem. The other end of the new flexible hose is different to the old one, so I'm a little bit confused here. At this point I haven't given up, so I get out the slave cylinder and see if there's not some sort of adapter in the box, and obviously there isn't. So I've got the wrong hose. I definitely ordered it for my Defender, so I've got no choice. As you can see here, I need to drive the Defender tomorrow or the next day, and I'm going to have to reuse the old hose. When I'm working on my Defender, this type of thing happens to me, I'd say at least 50% of the time. Perhaps it's my inexperience, as I'm just a plumber and just a part-time Land Rover Defender mechanic. Anyway, the old hose is good enough to put on for the time being, so I'm going to have to reassemble it all. I've cleaned it roughly, and I'm going to reassemble it all and reuse it. I subsequently checked with the company that I bought the kit from, and they confirmed that they had actually sent me the wrong hose. Apparently on some of the later TD5s, Land Rover made some alterations to the hoses. The company that I purchased the kit from sent me the correct hose free of charge. So basically I'll have to put that hose in stock as a spare for the future. Anyway, here you can see I'm fitting the rigid pipe into the slave cylinder. This makes the job so much easier, being able to do this off the vehicle, as it were. I don't over tighten the fitting because I'm going to need a slight bit of adjustment when I come to fit the slave cylinder in place, and I don't want to put any unnecessary strain on the pipework. And I know how easy it is to damage these rigid pipes, so I'm going to be careful. As usual, when I'm reassembling everything, I always put copper grease on anything that might need to be removed and replaced in the future. It's reasonably easy to refit the slave cylinder. I just tighten one bolt up from the underneath and the other one from the top. Reconnecting the flexible hose is a reasonably simple procedure as well. Notice here that little red cap, that's the cap that's on top of the bleed nipple. And I know it's self-explanatory, but the bleed nipple should always be at the top. What I'm doing here is trying to get the nut to spin freely on the pipe. There must be some dirt or corrosion on the pipe which is preventing the nut from spinning. I need this nut to spin freely on the pipe so that when I start it on the connection, I don't cross-thread it. Once I'd got the new slave cylinder connected, all the pipe work, bled all the air out of the system. When I came to try it, there was no difference. The car was still difficult to get into gear. So I checked and rechecked the travel on the pedal, and that was fine. So the only culprit it could be was the master cylinder, the clutch master cylinder. Before changing the slave cylinder, I didn't even consider that the master cylinder would be faulty. In the last 2 years, I've fitted 2 master cylinders to my Defender, and I fitted those because the previous ones were leaking, and there was no leak at all from the current master cylinder that I've got fitted in the Land Rover. Sure enough, once I fitted the new master cylinder, everything worked perfectly. Reasonably smooth gear changes, and everything going into gear perfectly. I've shown the fitting of a new master cylinder in one of my previous videos, so there's no need to put you through that hell again. All I can think with the master cylinder that I've taken out is that something inside must have failed, an O-ring or something, as there was no sign of clutch fluid leaking out of anywhere. In hindsight, one of the symptoms that I did notice is that the clutch fluid that was in the master cylinder was very dirty, and it had a metallic-y kind of grey look about it, which now that I think about it is a little bit strange, because as I said before, I've fitted 2 new master cylinders in my Land Rover in the last 2 years, and both of the times all of the clutch fluid was replaced with new. So perhaps in the future that's a thing I'm going to have to monitor to see if there's any discoloration of the clutch fluid itself. That might give indications that something's on its way out. Also, it was very difficult to purge the air from this clutch system. I remember last time I did it as well. It was very difficult. I wonder if anybody could let me know if there's an easy way of doing it. So that's it. Another job closer to the road trip. My wife's going to be very pleased.